3 hours of absolutely exhilarating and completely exhausting exposition-filled tension mounting to the highest degree. It can be a definitive ending or a whole new beginning. The stakes have never been higher. There's never been so much earnestness in communicating the gravity of it through the excellent performances and the plethora of exposition along the way. Believe me when I say there is a lot of it. Some of it necessary, some of it delivered well, and some of it redundant and admittedly a bit silly after some thought. Maybe it didn't need to be as long as it is. Maybe the 3 hours could have been better spent elsewhere. It's not quite 3 hours. It's about 2 hours and 50 minutes or so. Maybe it didn't need to spoon feed the audience, but as someone who didn't get to rewatch Dead Reckoning beforehand, I get why they felt the urge to. They just did it too often. The callbacks will make some upset, but I love how a specific one tied the whole series together for Ethan's arc and why everything rests on him and his personal responsibility. But how he survives some of the incidents in this movie is questionable at best, especially for this series that usually does a pretty good job with that. But man, when it's messy, it is messy. And I scratch my head at some of the choices made. Some are deeply frustrating, some really bad choices in parts, especially in the beginning act. And it doesn't pay off a lot of what Dead Reckoning sets up or its own subplots that go nowhere. And you'll know what I mean, because it's kind of a shame. There's two in particular that stand out, from one from Dead Reckoning to this with Gabriel and that whole backstory, and another one that Final Reckoning mentions and then just doesn't do anything with, really. When I got out of this movie, I was really, really high on it, rating wise. When some time passed, it sank a little bit after discussion. The highs went higher and the lows kept deepening, and so there was a wide gap between the two. And then as I had a lot of discussion with some friends that had also seen it, it got a little bit worse. And I will say it has incredibly high highs, and the lows do deepen as time goes on, but those highs, there's a sequence in a submarine that is one of the most like butt-clenching things I've ever watched in my life. It's so claustrophobic. And then they do it again, the opposite of claustrophobia, fear of heights, I'll say, in one of the final sequences. Outside of those, like, there wasn't as much action as you think. It's much more of a thriller than you would think it would be. But those sequences are standouts, and there is a very appropriate heavy tone setting the stakes for this film that I really, really appreciated. I was stupefied at how well Cruise carries the movie when he's in so much of it by himself. I do wish we had seen more of the world, because the plot itself is pretty insulated, and so you don't see a ton of it. There is some subplots, some political subplots that are very fascinating. Simultaneously shocked at how well they still carry themselves in the tone of these movies, but at the same time, you can tell the weight of it and trying to end it in this neat little bow made this one suffer, and in turn makes Dead Reckoning suffer in hindsight because of that mounting tension and the assault on the senses and the like tons of exposition and things constantly thrown at you for 3 hours on top of like really tense like butt clenching action scenes. I was pretty drained after it was over, and that's why I used the word exhausting. But I will say the reward of completing the mission with the characters was worth it. What a movie when it is good. What a bold choice to make this an epic thriller first and foremost, and to try something different. There's parts I wanted more of, but it's hard to have too much against such elegance on screen when it's great. But then you think of the faults and it's like, oh man, what were they thinking at times? I've swung like a pendulum on this one several times. I was at a really high rating and then kind of a middle rating, but I think I have to be honest with myself and say this is one of the weakest, if not the weakest in the series. That's why I give Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning 3.5 out of 5 stars. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, always look for the good.